Hi, on April 8th, 2024, on a Monday, there was a full solar eclipse in a good portion of North America. So I found it really cool to be able to see the solar eclipse. I took the day off and I traveled about an hour and a half's drive in Ontario, Canada to see the full eclipse as opposed to a partial one. To have a little fun with the full solar eclipse, I had fun making a solar eclipse t-shirt. I had some leftover materials from skating showcases, so I had fun making this shirt. So this has some fabric on it that's iron-on, and the iron-on fabric will actually end up, it'll fluoresce under ultraviolet light. And then the paint that was used also will fluoresce under ultraviolet light. So it's kind of a fun t-shirt that I just enjoyed doing for the solar eclipse. So here we have planet Earth represented as a circle, and we're just going to emulate the idea of a solar eclipse, which you probably know already. So what we're looking at is we have an ultraviolet light showing the sunlight going down onto planet Earth. And what happens during our lovely solar eclipse that happened on April 8th is we had the moon, and then the sun came over and it went right on top of the moon. It was in line. So we actually had a full solar eclipse in Ontario, Canada. So here's another take on how a solar eclipse happens. So of course we have the sun very far away and the moon way closer to planet Earth, and these can all line up in such a way that the sun is hidden by the moon. And what happens is we get a shadow cast from the moon over top of wherever this is lining up perfectly. So if this is lined up really perfectly, you just get a little bit of a ring from the sun. It's a full eclipse where the moon is preventing the sun's light from being cast to planet Earth in that location. So this was kind of cool to see. You can see the different phases at the bottom of the screen where the sun, the moon is going in the path of the sun, and you can see the sun starts to get kind of cut into. And it ends up looking like a crescent moon to some degree, but instead of it being the moon, it's really the sun that you're seeing, and the moon is going in front of the sun. And when the moon is totally over the sun is where you see that bright picture in the center bottom of where you just kind of see just the solar flares from the sun as opposed to the sun itself. And of course, then you're going to have the moon moving out of alignment of the sun. And so you end up slowly gaining back to seeing the entire sun. So during this solar eclipse, I was able to sort of play with having those fancy sunglasses that are super, super dark to protect your eyes. I put them over top of my cell phone camera and took pictures that way. So here's some pictures of the partial eclipse as the moon is going in front of the sun, as things are more aligning up. Now here we have where the eclipse is almost complete, where the moon is covering the sun almost on the left-hand side. In the middle is where the full eclipse is occurring. At that point, it was very hard to get pictures from my cell phone, so that's about the best one I got. And then on the right-hand side is when the sun is starting to emerge from behind the moon again. This diagram gives a relatively decent picture on the idea of solar eclipses. Now, this is mentioning an annular solar eclipse, we had a total solar eclipse. What is the difference? So with an annular solar eclipse, the moon is at the farthest distance from planet Earth. Now, what does that mean? Yes, the moon orbits planet Earth, but it's not a perfect orbit. So when the moon is farther away, like an oblong orbit, then the sun will not be totally overshadowed by the moon. So in an annular solar eclipse, there will be some of the sun around the moon visible. Now, in our total solar eclipse that was experienced, the moon actually was closer to planet Earth, which meant it blocked out all of the sun. And all that was seen was the solar flares off the sun when it was totally eclipsed, the moon in front of the sun. So that was kind of fun. Now, when I got to see this, it was some of the things that I noticed were, I knew it was going to get dark, and it was for 3 or 4 minutes. It was a total eclipse where I was. Knew it, had not experienced it before. It was very different to experience it versus knowing it would happen. So I thought that was kind of neat. Other things, it was a cool day, so you needed a jacket where it was, but when the eclipse actually happened, you got chilly. So the temperature dropped several degrees, and it really made me gain an appreciation of the importance of the sun. Yes, I know we need the sun for planet Earth, but within a few minutes, the temperature dropped considerably. That I thought was kind of neat. And if I had been somewhere out in more nature conditions, near a swamp perhaps, or a forest, I have been told that the animals get a little confused and they start to realize it's gonna be nighttime. So they start preparing for night. So the animal sounds change. The frogs that were chirping and croaking stop making that noise. The birds stop making noise. And I was told that some chickens will get very, very loud before the solar eclipse, and then it's all silent in the darkness. So it would be interesting to notice the animal behaviors as well. So most people, well, a good portion of people in southwestern Ontario decided they would go and look at the solar eclipse through the special glasses at Niagara Falls, where there would be a full eclipse there. And so a lot of people in Ontario live in Toronto, and a lot of them decided to travel the same highway to get to Niagara Falls. Now, I really wasn't interested in being at Niagara Falls with the prediction of 2 million people witnessing the eclipse. So I took some friends and we went it was about a half hour's drive away from Niagara Falls at a little conservation area, which would be similar to a small state park or provincial park, similar idea. And so we went to a place called Balls Falls, which has a beautiful waterfall and some hiking and that sort of thing. So way less people. I think there were maybe about 100 people there. So I found this more enjoyable to be able to see the full eclipse and just have a calmer setup. So if you scroll into this, you can probably see some of the history related to this conservation area. So here on the left-hand side, top left, is the notorious Balls Falls. That's quite beautiful. It's quite interesting to look at. You can see the different layers of rock that the waterfall has been carving into. It's sort of like a bowl type waterfalls. And it's all fenced off, so you can't really get any closer than that, but it is quite beautiful to see. And if you were to go there, there is lots of hiking everywhere. I got to hike down, I would say 5 or 6 stories worth of staircase to go down to where the ravine was and get to see some of the river, like what you're seeing in the bottom right side. And there's all kinds of hiking one could do that way that I look forward to going back and seeing. So I hope you like getting to know a bit more about the total solar eclipse and the idea of some of the places you could see, including Balls Falls in Ontario, if you ever wanted to.